ya maadili inayotupa ya kheri, hivyo nyote mujue hili. TV Alhajar, TV bora ya maadili inayotupa ya kheri, hivyo nyote mujue hili. TV Alhajar, twatangazia dunia leo, twawapa habari, twamshukuru jalia kutuletea ya kheri. TV imetujia hini yetu Alhajar, TV imetujia hini yetu Alhajar. TV bora ya maadili inayotupa ya kheri, hivyo nyote mujue hili. TV Alhajar, TV bora ya maadili inayotupa ya kheri, hivyo nyote mujue hili. TV Alhajar ni TV ya thamani, tunawajuza sahihi, jamani tuishikeni. Ni TV ya jamii sana, tuitazameni, hakika tutafurahi. Sana tuitazameni, hakika tutafurahi. TV bora ya maadili inayotupa ya kheri, hivyo nyote mujue hili. TV Alhajar, TV bora ya maadili inayotupa ya kheri, hivyo nyote mujue hili.
Sheikh Mustafa Mahmoud ni Sheikh ambaye ni founder wa Mustafa's Academy katika taifa la Uingereza. Vile vile alianza masomo yake hapa katika kaunti ya Mombasa, lakini yeye mwenyewe najua atachanganya lugha leo. Tusikie Kiswahili pia, japokuwa umeishi miongo kadhaa katika taifa la Uingereza, lakini nikiamini leo japo Kiswahili tutakisikia Sheikh.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ابسط علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا من حكمتك وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. آمين يا رب العالمين. Now before I begin, I want to ask Alhaajar themselves, can they hand me one mic please? Only one mic. Sheikh Ahmed Lali knows that. Only one mic. Inshallah. I'll proceed with this. If I can get one mic, I'll really appreciate it. Naam, Sheikh Khatib.
Sheikh Mustafa Mahmoud.
Yes.
One mic is for live. We are streaming live on YouTube. And another mic is for our brother, Abu Shurem. So we're supposed to use those two mics, my brother.
All right. We'll bear patience with that, inshallah. However, we praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala first and foremost, then send our blessings and salutations upon Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May Allah be pleased with his household companions and each one of us for gathering over here. May He accept our attendance and our oneness and the fact that we are here to benefit. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala make it useful. However, just remember, I'm a very young student of knowledge, and as I'm speaking right now, my heart is not at ease, because my first teacher that gave me the pulpit is Sheikh Abu Hamza. There he is, busy on his phone. Sheikh Abu Hamza in his masjid, his former masjid, that's exactly where I literally delivered my first sermon. And then later on I developed from there. And as I speak, the mashayikh are here, Sheikh Abdullah is here, Sheikh Ali Bahero is here, Sheikh Abu Bakr is here. Basically everyone is here. For me to speak, I feel like it's not my place. And not only that, my actual Sheikh that I'm learning from as well, no matter how close I am to him, Barakallahu feekum. No matter how close I am to him, honestly, I still feel I'm not the one to be standing right in this place. However, I came with a different topic. And what I prepared was a continuation of what I already started as a lecture from Kajiado University, Islamic University of Kenya in Kajiado. I literally spoke about the marahil that a student goes through in order to build whom? A qadi. When we say a qadi, we mean a jurist. A jurist which is unrecognized today, that we have other type of courts. Today you notice that the modern world, we believe in different laws than that which we are supposed to follow as Muslims. The Islamic order is an entire world. We used to cherish not more than 100 and somewhat years. But today we depend on something else. That which doesn't derive from the main sources that you and I believe in, which has led the Ummah to undermine exactly what is their value, who they are. Their identity is lost. That they don't understand the most important part that they need. But it all begins with the heart and the mind. Because these two things, these two parts of the body, once they are shaped, it's much easier for the rest to make sense. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ عندما تلقي السمع من أين هذا؟ من العقل. And qalb is where your emotions are. What goes through the mind will penetrate through the heart, but the mind makes the decision. And majority of the times you notice that decisions are made by impulse, which means emotions. Our emotions exactly determine our actions. That's how it is. Hence, I'll take you back to a story, and I want you to listen to these characters. Don't forget them. There was a man known as Asad ibn al-Furat. Remember this name. Asad ibn al-Furat was one of those students that lived at the times of Al-Imam Malik. What happened is, he left, he went to Tunisia, he stayed there for a while, but then he decided later on that he will go back to Al-Imam Malik and compile exactly what Al-Imam Malik has left behind of fiqh of Medina, and then he can do some of fiqh al-muqarin, because it is said also that it's either him who went to Al-Imam Malik or another scholar, but he went to Al-Imam Malik and had some questions which are known as as'ila iftiradiyya. He would just come up with questions which haven't happened yet. And Al-Imam Malik said, I don't like this. So he told him, look, if you go to the people of Iraq, you find your answers. He went and met with Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, one of the grand scholars of the Hanafi school. The Hanafi school is built by the two main Qudah. You notice Muhammad ibn Hasan al-Shayban and Abu Yusuf al-Qadi Abu Yusuf, these two. If we talk about Muhammad ibn Hasan and we talk about al-Qadi Abu Yusuf, we're not going to finish. So let's come back to the story that we have. Unfortunately, as he was about to make his journey, Al-Imam Malik passed away. As Al-Imam Malik passes away, he starts searching around. Who would it be the one that will hand him what Al-Imam Malik left then? These people didn't only write, these people memorized even the aqwal of their scholars, the opinions of their scholars, literally. Hence it became an entire madhab. If you read in the books of tarajum, biographies, is for a purpose. You don't read those books if you're a beginner student in the science of Sharia. You read those books when you reach to a certain level. And that's only when you reach to the 3rd level or maybe the 4th level. Al-Hasil Laki, Asim al-Furat goes out searching and he meets a man called Abdullah ibn Wahab. Abdullah ibn Wahab, as he goes to him, Asim al-Furat tells him, tell me exactly what Al-Imam Malik would say about this, about that, in regards to this hukm and that hukm. Abdullah ibn Wahab, rather than just explaining to him that this would be the opinion of Imam Malik, this is what exactly Imam Malik have said, perhaps I think he also said this. He doesn't just do that, but actually he says, Al-Imam Malik said this and Al-Imam Malik made a mistake. This will be correct. قال مالك كذا وكذا وأخطأ مالك. قال مالك كذا وكذا وأخطأ مالك. This man, Asad ibn Furat, looked at him and told him, this saying is profound. إنما مثل هذا الرجل, the example of this man, كمن بال في شاطئ البحر ثم نظر إلى بولته فقال هذا بحر وهذا بحر. This man is literally like the one who went to the ocean, to the shore of the ocean. He urinated over there and he said that this is an ocean and what he sees over there is an ocean. That's how young he is when it comes to ilm. Now what I'm telling you, what I'm speaking to you, is not things that I found from the books alone, actually with the help of my Sheikh. Everything that I'm about to speak over here is nothing from my own pocket, nothing that I might be a genius of, or that which I read alone, but actually by sitting down and learning. That's why I tell you I'm still a student. This is not my place. فلذلك, he then left. He wasn't satisfied with the answer. He went to Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim al-Utaqi, the main tilmid of Al-Imam Malik, the main student of whom Al-Imam Malik. Why do we say Ibn al-Qasim al-Utaqi, he is the main student of Al-Imam Malik? هل عاش مع الإمام مالك أكثر من الطلاب الأخر? Did he live more with Imam Malik compared to the other students? When we say we live more, the modern structure today is that you will go to university, and I will continue saying this every time I get an opportunity to speak about education, is that you go to university, you leave university, the only time you have with your lecturer is literally the 15 minutes that you pay attention. If the lecture goes about 50 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, perhaps you will only give the lecturer half an hour. The next of the other ones, you're busy with your phone, throwing chalks, or if not, you're literally conversing with the other, and you're aggravating whom? Your lecturer, who is so-called your teacher. How much time do you give? These ulama, if you read their history, like Sheikh Abdullah was explaining, and even further, for example, Abdul Rahman ibn Qasim al-Utaqi, what exactly happened to Imam Malik with Imam al-Zuhri at his time, where he would stay outside his house to a level where people will think he is the slave of the Sheikh. Ibn al-Qasim did the same thing. كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ. Exactly what you do is exactly what happens. But what makes Ibn al-Qasim al-Utaqi special? He lived with Imam Malik for 20 years. Not the lecturer you spend for just hours. دقيقات وتتخرج وتسمي نفسك خريجي. And I'm not talking about students that go study their deen. Even those in the secular sector. Even us. لا نتقن ما نعلم. We don't seek perfection in anything that we learn. And I'm really sorry to say this, but this is a fact. I live in this world, in the project, you live in the project, and it's something that we have to face the reality. Look at our Ummah today. Do you think it's just in the Western world? Look at us today. Look at Mombasa. I grew up here. I lived here. That's the honest truth. But a language that I speak with the most is English. That's why. I'll tell you this. Look at the situation, you notice the fashal of the ummah is not because of the failure, is because they don't want to go back to the reality. Let's come back to our story again. Asad ibn al-Furat goes to Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim al-Utaqi And Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim, after Imam Malik passed away, he left. He was an Egyptian, went back to his home. The story that all of the mashayikh, I believe, they know about him, is that he got married, تزوج, ولم يمكث مع زوجته بمدة طويلة. He didn't live with his wife for a long time. After just the marriage, even before the honeymoon ended, he told his wife, I am leaving, I'm going to go to seek knowledge under Imam Malik. If you desire, you can follow me. If you don't, you can wait for me. And worst case scenario, if you cannot wait for me for the next maybe a decade or so, I don't know when I might come back, because there was no communication like what we have today, mobile phones. People die, we take our phones out and we literally record their death. That's exactly what we do. That's how easily we communicate. But yesterday that wasn't the case. Or if you feel like it wouldn't work, you can tell me that I give you your divorce. The wife said, I'll wait for you. Do we have those women today? Simple question. He left and lived with Imam Malik for 20 years. This man, after 20 years, a qafila comes all the way from Egypt because of Hajj, not coming to visit Imam Malik. And as you go to Hajj, what is the sunnah? تزور الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. You visit the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم. هو الذي أنعمنا بهذا وهذا ليس بكلامي وإذ تقول للذي أنعمت عليه وإذ تقول الذي أنعم الله عليه وأنعمت عليه أمسك عليك زوجك. Allah mentions in the Quran دائما. The Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم for us is a ni'mah. ألم تر إلى الذين بدلوا نعمة الله كفرا. في تفسير ابن جزي الغرناطي الكلبي صاحب هذا التفسير ماذا يقول؟ النعمة المقصودة هنا من؟ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. وإن كان العلماء اختلفوا. Even if the ulama, they've differed when it comes to this. But it is true. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a ni'mah. To have him as part of us. We wouldn't have had all of this without him. Understand that. These beautiful faces would not gather here if it wasn't for him. Teaching us what is worth living for. So Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim al-Utaqi, with his firasa, his genius, he was able to follow this qafila from Egypt, and he said, Ashummu ra'ihat al-walad. I can smell the fragrance of a child. And then he goes to a man and he asks him, is there any family of Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim here? He said, I am the son of Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim. Ibn al-Qasim broke down to tears and he told him, I am your father. The modern structure is like this. The father disappears for 20 years. La qaddar Allah. The father disappears for 2 years, comes back after 2 years. The children don't even want to know him. That is the reality, because the child feels he's entitled or she's entitled to say, why did you abandon me? But they don't understand the value of parents being in their lives. This man left his family for the sake of knowledge. Today's era, it doesn't make sense, because no one wants it to make sense. أين حظ الآباء؟ أين حظ الأمهات? How much value do we give our parents? Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim al-Utaqi, when he literally meets his son cries out of love and he returns back to his land. As he goes back to his land and he meets with Asad ibn al-Furad, at that time, Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim, he would complete the Quran 2 khatmas every day. One from morning all the way to midday, and the rest from Dhuhr all the way to the end of the day. When Asad ibn al-Furad came, he remembered the wasiyah of Al-Imam Malik. Fi wasaya Imam Malik, if you read that book, you notice that Al-Imam Malik told him and other ulama, they were told, who were the students of Imam Malik, some of them were told, you maintain in your position of ibadah. You remain in this position so and so. Lakin for you, Ibn al-Qasim, أخذت هذا العلم وحظك أن تنشره. You took this knowledge and your generosity is to do what? Is to spread it out. Means you are a alim of your caliber. Al-Imam Malik gave him the title. When he received Asad ibn al-Furat at his time, he was the man on the down low. He didn't like publicity, not like social media that we have today. Real scholars do not expose themselves. That's the honest truth. The scholars that write, the scholars that leave heritage, some of them you only come to know about them after their death. لكن Allah جعل بيننا وبينهم حجاب. Between us and them, there's a hijab. And I'll explain to you the reason why at the end of the story. Asad ibn al-Furat, as he goes to Abdurrahman ibn al-Qasim, Abdurrahman ibn al-Qasim tells him, Ya Asad, every day I have 2 khatmas. But because of you, I will give you my time in the expense of letting go of 1 khatma. So I would only read 1 khatma a day, not 2. So that you take this ilm and you teach it to the rest of the world. Asad ibn al-Furat wrote this book. He compiled this science, especially the aqwal of Imam Malik, to the extent where the reason why Ibn al-Qasim stood out in the Maliki madhab, they say if it's not at Imam Malik, then it's Abdurrahman ibn al-Qasim. Al-Qawl, Qawl ibn al-Qasim. Immediately. Because lam yukhlituhu bi ghayrih. He did not mix him with another alim of his time. Lakin, the students that came for Imam Malik, some of them lived with Imam Malik for 30 years, but they mixed Imam Malik with other scholars. Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani lived enough with Imam Malik and he was fascinated with him, but he was a Hanafi scholar. Hence you find that Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani has his own muwatta. وَكُنَّا نَتَكَلَّمْ فِي هَذا مَعَ الشيخ قريبا. Sheikh Abdullah, we were talking about this recently. What do you notice? The reason why they will go to Abdurrahman ibn al-Qasim, they will get the pure understanding of whom? Of Al-Imam Malik's thoughts and what Al-Imam Malik left behind. And Ibn al-Qasim, he would let him do naql, write this down from the top of his head. That's how the situation was then. Can we memorize an address? Or do we need Google Maps? How does it work? If we want an answer, don't we go back to the AI, artificial intelligence that we have, ChatGPT? I've seen that with my own eyes. That's the reality. Ibn al-Qasim, he explains and gives him everything and he leaves. And then when he left and he went to Tunisia, listen to mistake number 1. He does not refer back the book to Ibn al-Qasim or maybe to the Maliki's madhab also. In fact, he calls it al-Asadiyya. Refers it back to his own name. Attributes the knowledge to himself. Man sara aliman bi nafsih. Who became a scholar by his own. How do you become a righteous child on your own if it wasn't for tarbiyah? If it wasn't for your parents, your teachers, your community, your loved ones, if it wasn't for them, the people around you, your friends, how do you attain that tarbiyah? Righteousness, love of ilm, love of Allah, adab. How do you attain that? Do you think that happened on your own? It doesn't happen like that. You attribute things back to where they belong. So this system that we live in today, and I mentioned just 2 days ago, we live in a system of ananiyah. لأن ماذا؟ لأن مراد الشيطان أن يبني فينا ماذا؟ الفكرة الأنوية. So the shaitan can build the ideology of what? It's about me and me alone. No one else did anything to build me. It's always going to be about me. That's why you notice even the young of those du'at that grow up of ourselves, they don't attribute back their knowledge to their sheikhs. Understand that. Today, when we write down our CV of where we learn, we write down the school that we learned from. I went to this university, that university. But before that, you will say that I took ilm from this man, this man, this man. Sammu lana rijalakum. Why? Because we understood there's always a chain. And that's how you become appreciative. But when you don't appreciate something, you don't remember anyone, first of all. It's a simple hadith that each one of us hear about. Man la yashkur الناس لا يشكر الله. وهكذا الحال. That's the reality. So when the Asadiyya was put together, a man came simply known as Sahnun. But his name is Abdul Salam ibn Sa'id al-Tanuhi. Sahnun, he learned from Asad ibn al-Furat, took the ilm, and the people of Tunisia, they cherished this man. They gave him a position. Although he would say that قال ابن القاسم كذا قال ابن القاسم كذا وقال الإمام مالك كذا, they would know about that. Of course, he cannot just say directly that he's the one that put it all together. It doesn't make sense. What happened is that Abdul Salam, he went back to Ibn al-Qasim and he told him, I want us to revise this text. Not that I think it has flaws, but in reality that I think it's best that we go through it. Perhaps there might be something that we might need to add or maybe reduce. Normally, when you write a book, there's the first edition, second edition, that's how it works. And you notice when you write down the acknowledgement for you to literally attribute back certain parts of the book to others who assisted you in writing that book, you refer back to the right people that literally had a role that they played in compiling the whole text. So when he went back to Ibn al-Qasim, as-Sahnun, what he did is that he took it and there were some revisions made, and after that Ibn al-Qasim told Sahnun, go back to Asad ibn al-Furat, tell him that he corrects his manuscript that he has because of these things that we've corrected together. I think that would be a good idea, rather than allowing that to go viral and widespread, and it might be the wrong text. So Sahnun Abdul Salam ibn Sa'id, he went back to Asad ibn al-Furat and told him, Abdul Rahman ibn Qasim, he appreciates what you've done and he literally loves all of your deeds. Lakin, he's saying that this is the correct version of the text. So he's telling you to correct this book that you have so that we could spread the right one. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the birth of a book known as Al-Mudawwana. Look at how long it takes to literally just compile together an entire madhab that perhaps many of us do not appreciate the idea of madhabs. Perhaps many of us don't even understand what a madhab means. For some of us, perhaps it just passes over our heads. That's a fact. That's the state of the Ummah today. Al-Mudawwana was because of that reason. Now, when Asad ibn al-Furat received the message, what did he say? The scholars have two aqwal. They say that, and both of them are bad actually, exactly what Sheikh said. He said that, one, the first one he said, إِنَّمَا جَعَلْتُهُ ibn al-Qasim. I am the one that made him Ibn al-Qasim. If I made him famous, he wants to take away my position. The second one, they say that he said, no, I wouldn't do so. Ibn al-Qasim received the message. Was he angry? Yes, he was. Was he jealous? No. But he understand al-ilm هذا أمانة. لأن العلم حياتنا أو من كان ميتا فأحييناه وجعلنا له نور. أحييناه بماذا؟ بنور الإسلام. أنت Muslim, you're a Muslim, your nur is Islam. How do you understand your Islam? هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل. Ibrahim alayhi salam from then called us Muslims, submitters. Submit ourselves to whom? Allah. If you do not understand who Allah is, the simplest of your creed, how do we even appreciate Allah alone to say that we would worship Him and not mix Him with any other ideology? Ask yourself that. When Ibn al-Qasim received the message, out of his anger, remember he's a wali from awliya of Allah, a man that lives reciting Quran with 2 khatmas every day, did nothing else, not even seek fame, sought knowledge, taught it and moved on like that. You don't mess about with these type of people. Today we don't even recognize them. What did he say? Allahumma la tubarik fil asadiyya. Today as we speak, al-asadiyya doesn't even exist. We only read it from the biographies of scholars. Because barakah is not what we live to see. Barakah is what remains after our death. When you always read in Surah Al-Kahf, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, because of their forefathers, their ancestors, they were righteous, and now we need to save this jidar, this falling wall, because of the righteousness of these children, not because that they were righteous alone. It started then. It came from somewhere. And because of the barakah of the ancestors, that is exactly they were going to be righteous. And that's a fact. إخوة الكرام, لطلاب العلم, among you over here, as far as I know and according to what I received from Al-Haajar themselves, there might be about more than 100 to 200 students. How many of you are students? Whether in universities, whether in schools or else? Raise your hand up. I'm still a student. How many of you are students? Now for the rest of those, listen, there's nothing wrong if you're not a student. We need every single person in this majma'. We need those who are working, we need those who are students, and we need beyond. But personally, I can speak to the students easily rather than speaking to anyone else. Every student of knowledge needs 4 things. كل طالب يحتاج إلى 4 أشياء. Number 1, in order for you to seek knowledge, and I want you to write this down. Ma'al asaf, majority of us attend, but we don't even have a notepad and a pen. That's the honest truth. And we say that, we'll memorize it. مَا حُفِظَ فَرَّ وَمَا كُتِبَ قَرَّ. And this is a normal saying that we say. Anything that you write, it will remain. Anything that is memorized, easily does it do what? It runs away. لذلك the ulama, what did they say? العلم حفظ حرف ومراجعة ألف. I love this. You understand something about this. You only memorize a bit, but you revise more than 1,000 times. That's how you keep. Similar to the Quran, of those who have memorized Quran, or whatever you've memorized, the reason why your Quran disappears easily, because perhaps you only revise it Ramadan to Ramadan. And that's if you're an imam. And the rest of the other 11 months, the Quran is not considered anymore. How does it remain? How does it be with you? How does your mind, your dhakira, become strong? Are we really going to be those who grow up to be supported by AI, walking with crutches, mental crutches, mental wheelchairs? Are we going to be those type of people really? Think about it. If we cannot be directed somewhere where people had databases in their minds, today we have databases on our phones, but not our minds anymore. It only even weakens our decisions. And when the mind is weak, the body becomes weak. And when the body is weak, you cannot achieve. That's a fact. The first thing that a student requires is a tarbiyah. Why did I narrate to you the story? Tarbiyah is nurturing. Tarbiyah is mentorship. You don't achieve it on your own. You achieve it when you are with the right scholars, within the right circle, with the right jama'ah. The modern structure does not allow us to literally have the right nurturing. Bear that in mind, and that's a fact. Look at us. Look at our reality. How much fahisha spreads out there of our own children, our own brothers, our own sisters. They would rather be comedians than being gentlemen. Ladies would rather be women, but they would want to literally sell themselves. There's no hiding a reality. Let's be honest. Where is the tarbiyah? What went wrong? The ummah today, ash-shahawat, muthara. These shahawat, they've literally been risen. They've been attacked left, right, and center. Hence, we don't even have patience. And the first pillar for a student is patience. Bidun sabr, without sabr. How do you attain anything? Kama qala Sheikh Ahmed Lali. He told you over here about the wasiyah of man, Al-Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. سأنبيك عن تفصيلها ببياني. One of them is istibar. You don't have that. How do you sit? Students that sit down sincerely to seek ilm, the teacher can go on for about 5 hours, and the student cannot even put their knees on the ground for 2 hours. And the rest of the 3 just blows away in the wind. That's how knowledge was sought. Do you think men became men at the time by just sleeping? Men became men not by universities, not by a washed down type of education, but actually it required more. I really desire to speak about this 3rd and the 4th marhala of what a student of Sharia goes through in order to become a talibul ilm al-shari'i. But I can't do that today because time doesn't allow me, first of all. And many of us, I don't know whether we are prepared or not. But if you do want to just hear about the 1st level and the 2nd level, just so that you can become at least a da'i, at least so that you can preach on the pulpit, and somehow you can lead salah in the masjid, not become a teacher that you can teach, not yet. ما عندك استئذان في هذا. You don't have that istidhan, then go back to the previous lecture that I literally spoke about in Islamic University of Kenya. I spoke about those 2 marahil. If I'm going to speak about the rest of the other 2 marahil, inshallah, next time. At-tarbiyah, number 1. Because antal wi'a. You are the vessel. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he was young, we know the famous story of the seerah. What exactly happened? Jibreel alayhi salam came, laid him down, opened his heart, removed the black part which was in his soul, in his heart, and cleared him off on a gold vessel, returned it back. Why do you think that was? For what reason? so that the time when it comes for him to receive the wahi, the revelation, his heart is prepared for that. His heart is prepared for that. And always Allah will tell him, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. And still he would say, from those three questions that were asked, as Sheikh Abdullah said, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, and they asking you about the soul. He was told to say, الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي, it's from the matter of my Lord. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. With this knowledge that we have, and we think that we have a lot of it, in reality we have so much less of it. No scholar became a scholar and they claim that they have the knowledge. الأمر الأول التربية. بدون التربية it is impossible for this vessel to attain this ilm. How? Ibn Ashir في عبد الواحد ابن عاشر في متنه, what does he say? يطهر القلب من الرياء وحسد وعجب وكل داء. A student that wants to become a student, he clears his soul from riya, feeling that everything is about him, boasting around, and having any type of hasad, and any type of ujb, and any type of what? Any type of amrad in the heart. يطهر القلب من الرياء وحسد وعجب وكل داء. Because without this, you wouldn't be able to achieve ويوقف الأمور حتى يعلم ما الله فيهن به قد حكم. If you have hasad, if you have ujb, and if you feel like it's just about you, you can answer every question even when you don't know the answer. وبقلة علمك, you feel like I will only answer on something that Allah has already made a judgment that you don't know of. How do we stand in front of Allah and say that I know the judgment while you don't even know what Allah has said? Think about it. And what is all that brought by? What brings all of that? وَاعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ أَصْلَ ذِي الْآفَاتِ. Remember that the reason that all of these issues are brought by حُبُّ الرِّيَاسَةِ وَطَرْحُ الْآتِ. Because you want leadership before your time. You want to believe that you belong while you don't. You want to be at the forefront while that's not your caliber. You want to be the one that takes over while you're not even prepared. Your knowledge is like a house of cards. Your heart in itself, the Ummah today has become literally like a house of cards. We saw the rain last night. All of us did? Did we see the rain last night? You know, Imru'ul Qais, he has a beautiful mu'allaqa that he explains about this. The rain of yesterday. And see how the house of cards is like. أحاري ترى برقا كأن وميضه كلمع اليدين في كبي المحلل كأن سباعا لا. He talks about, Allah mentioned this in the Quran. But then he goes on to say, قعدت له وصحبتي بين عامر وبين إكام بعدما متأمل. Are you going to see what a barq, that we saw a thunder? And look at how it glowed, how it covered the entire land, that the eyes can only reach to how far. And I sat, me and my friend, and literally gazed at the rain and how far it went, our gaze went. They were so shocked. They said that this type of rain, وأضحى يصح الماء عن كل فيقة يكب على الأذقان دوح الكنهبل وتيماء لم يترك بها جذع نخلة ولا أطما إلا مشيدا بجندل. What does that mean? وتيماء, you go to Tawa, it did not even leave a single trunk, a tree trunk, any palm tree. This type of rain, it washed away everything. ولا أطما, even a qasr, a castle, إلا مشيدا بجندلي, has gone and withered away with the water. Lakin when you are built correctly, with the right tools, your mind is prepared, with the right tarbiyah, and you have that thing that holds on to you da'iman, every single time you feel connected to the right source. Your heart never sleeps. Your mind always yearns. You always want more, and you always feel low. You always want to achieve, but you still feel yet you haven't achieved. And yet you feel like you are the smallest of the youngest. That's the reality of what we are facing today, that each one of us want to belong and want to become, but not think about growth and development. Growth and development is exactly what the Ummah wanted. Bear that in mind. Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, he mentions in another book, he says what? It is best for you to only master one thing rather than reading or memorizing or mastering so many crafts while you don't even understand the best of one of them. You don't even know, you don't perfect even one of them. What's the means of that? That's why you have Arkanul Ihsan. Tarbiyah, number one. Bear that in mind. Tarbiyah. لذلك, how do you attain it? يصحب شيخا عارف المسالك يقيه في طريقه المهالك. You only befriend a sheikh. Sheikh mentioned. وصحبة أستاذ. You befriend the sheikh. I gave this story a few days ago when I was giving a lecture, and I would love to give it again for those who are not able to listen to it, because it will never leave my mind. I always had questions. Honestly speaking, I always had questions. Hence, I'm constantly asking and seeking answers. My questions were, why doesn't this apply today? Why isn't this working today? What's going on today? Why are we not reaching anywhere? What's happened to the Ummah? Every time I knock on a door, the door is open, the only thing I see is emptiness. I see hollowness through. But when Allah guided me to the right source of light, the only light you see is that, and the rest of the world becomes dark. And inshallah ta'ala, may Allah keep this light for me, to show me always where the path is. Not that I feel myself thinking it's special, la. But I'm telling you and myself that seek it, you will attain it. Seek it, you will receive it. Look for it, you'll find it. من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة. Iltimas, you have to search, constantly search. And when Allah gives you one path, hold on to it. That's what the Ummah needs. The Ummah needs to understand that it's a path that we need to follow. So when you find a sheikh that knows the path, this sheikh will protect you from those things that destroy you. With Asad ibn al-Furat, at his time, he thought it was enough for him. And when he said no, and he lived with his knowledge, while thinking that perhaps he belongs in the caliber alone, Allah took away everything that he worked for. Nothing of his works remained. But Al-Mudawwana did. Al-Mudawwana of the corrections. That's why. It's called because of the corrections that were made at the time. This type of sheikh, يُذْكِرُهُ اللَّهَ إِذَا رَآهُ. What does that mean? What we need is taqwa. Where do you achieve taqwa? Not just by reminding yourself of Allah da'iman. You need the sources that remind you of Allah always. Things that will constantly return you back to Allah. The Sahaba, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he was faced with the Sahaba. The Sahaba told him, every time I leave Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what happens? I feel like my heart deteriorates. I am destroyed. Da'iman. Abu Bakr had to give him glad tidings and tell him, look, we all feel the same. Where was the source of taqwa? Where was the source of reminder? Back to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's how it worked. وَيُصِلُ الْعَبْدَ إِلَى مَوْلَاهُ. فَالتَّرْبِيَةُ أَوَّلًا. I could carry on. Number two, بعد التربية, you need العلم الشرعي الحقيقي. Nowadays, why do I say that? I add al-haqiqi at the end for a reason. You need that shari'i knowledge, sharia knowledge, according to the deen, which is the true one. There's so much information spread out there because of social media, and also the wrong people that don't belong in their positions, and yet we still believe that's ilm. You know that it's an affliction which is afflicting you and I today, and it's a reality that we live in. So in order for you to reach to that level, you need to literally peel through the layers. That's a fact. I'll give you a simple example. For a ammi, not to come out of laymanhood, for just a layman, at least to survive, not to not be a layman. I'm not going to explain to you exactly what you need not to become a layman. Simply put, I'll give you this. Every imam in the masjid, they are required to to deliver to their people in the masjid, and the Muslims are required to achieve four knowledge. Four ilm. Four ulum. They need these four. Number one is al-aqidah. Only one text in aqidah, so they understand about Allah. A very small text. According to any text the imam will take. This doesn't require the imam to be a alim. As long as you've reached to that second marhala and the imam now is an imam, in today's day and age, I promise you, if the imam completes the second marhala, oh, he's a sheikh. That's the reality of today. He's a sheikh, he's a alim. According to how we perceive ulama today. لا نفرق بين داع وعالم. We cannot separate between a da'i and a alim. We all think they're ulama, they're mashayikh, they're scholars. That's a fact, but that's not the reality. You need aqidah, simply. Number two, somewhat of nahaw, which is lugha. Why do you need that? لصيانة اللسان من الأخطاء القرآنية, so that you can correct your lisan while you're reading Quran. That's number two. Number three, شيئا من التجويد. You need somehow something of tajweed. Now this is where the challenge comes by. Number four is somehow al-fiqh. And not كل أبواب الفقهية. Not every single fiqh chapter. You only need fiqh al-ibadat. Fiqh al-ibadat alone. Sheikh Ahmed Lali was explaining, how many types of people do we need? We need nurses, we need engineers, we need businessmen, we need more and more. Lakin, you notice that, I'll mention the text that I understand according to the madhab I follow. You notice that if you read Al-Ashmawiyah, and if you read Matn al-Akhdari, very small text in the Maliki madhab, you notice that Al-Ashmawiyah only covers the necessary parts of salah that every ammi requires, and just somewhat the chapter of siyam, so that you may protect your fasting and you may protect your salah. This book does not even cover mas'alat al-khuffayn, when you wear leather socks. It doesn't even cover when you have nose bleeding, mas'alat al-ru'af. It doesn't cover even that, let alone the rest of the other abwab fiqhiyya. Ask ourselves today, what's the state of the ummah? If we are asked about tahara alone, simply put, can we answer? Can we return back an answer knowing that, okay, I protect my tahara like this, I worship Allah like this. If I make a mistake a little bit, how do I correct it? At least for sujood al-sahw. When do you come with sujood al-sahw? Before salam or after salam? وَإِن يَكُنْ زَيْدٌ وَنَقْصٌ حَلَّ. What do you do? فَغَلِّبِ النُّقْصَانَ وَاسْجُدْ قَبْلَ وَإِن تَكُنْ تَمَحَّضَتْ زِيَادَةً فَاسْجُدْ لَهَا بَعْدَ وَفَى الْعِبَادَةِ. Simply put. Now you don't need to memorize all of that. The only thing that you need is to understand. If I make a mistake, I correct it like this. If I do this, my salah has gone wrong. It's simply salah. Not anything else. Simply salah. You don't need anything else. If a ammi understand these four, at the very least, he can walk around and knowing that they're confident in worshipping Allah solely, alone. And then beyond that, after that, what do you do? Anything else when you have a question, you come back to the alim. You come back to the sheikh. And the sheikh will answer your questions. He would help you when it comes to that. وَلَا عَيْبَ فِي ذَلِكَ. Look at the ummah today. That's just mentioning about whom? The ammi. Now, how do you come out of ammiyah? How do you come out of laymanhood? That you're not a layman anymore? That's another story for another day, not today. How do you not become a ammi anymore? That's for another lecture. Bear that in mind. Because it requires at least 3 times more than that for you to not be a ammi. Not to become an imam yet. Not to become a ammi. That's number 2. Number 3, you need to be able to enter into majal al-da'wah. Al-Habib Abu Bakr Mashur rahmatullah alayhi, he mentioned that دائما عندنا دعاء, which are 2 types, صنفين. Who are they? داعي ناطق وداعي صامت. There's a da'i that stands over here. دائما they will preach. That's why you have the mashayikh, you have the scholars, you have the du'at. They will preach to you دائما. They can spend 2 hours explaining, ongoing, skyrocketing on knowledge. That's their da'wah. لكن the da'wah that يشمل كلنا, the da'wah that literally combines each one of us. كلنا دعاء صامتون. Sorry, we don't even need that anymore. يا شباب شوف, كلنا دعاء صامتون. كيف؟ بالتربية. خليها حبيبي. شوف, بالتربية. When you have the right nurturing, you will be the one that leaves your home. You've already showered. You wear your clothes. You go pray in the masjid. Salatul subh. Read a little bit of Quran. Yallah, ila al-amal. أنت مجهز, منظم. عندك استقامة. You go like that. That's exactly how a Muslim is supposed to be. فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا. Istiqamah is just about your behavior. Once you nurture the soul to become like that, it's exactly how you're going to be. And to make yourself firm on the ground, exactly how you are within, it's exactly how you will be manifesting your actions outwardly. Inwardly, how you are is exactly outwardly how you're going to be. Simple example that you know, you and I don't want to use alien examples. Let's use the simple one. إنما الصبر عند الصدمة الأولى. How many of us know about this hadith? Many of us. Indeed, sabr is when you are afflicted immediately at the first strike. Because the khuluq of this lady at the time, her behavior was, she cannot handle a musibah. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam approached her, and his identity was unknown to the lady, she responded back in a way that no one would respond back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She outbursted in anger and in sorrow and in sadness. And when Rasulullah left, the Sahaba told her that, do you know whom you are addressing? Little did she know, and she was told, you address Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As she goes to Rasulullah, Rasulullah did not scold her. She was not scolded. In fact, she was told, إنما الصبر عند الصدمة الأولى. هذا خلق. هذه أخلاق شخص. This is exactly how a person is. So when you nurture yourself, you become firm. You stand on your feet, well grounded and well rooted in the grounds. You will be the one that stands properly. You stand straight and you don't wither away. فَتَكُونُ دَاعِيًا. Da'wah does not leave you and I. And the last one, which is the greatest of affliction, and hopefully inshallah, I won't take more than 10 minutes to explain this. Al-iktifa'u dhati. Al-iktifa'u dhati. Al-iktifa'u dhati, that means you need to be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient in what? Rizq, provision. The idea of employment, I've mentioned this a lot, and I want each one of us to clear our ears. Open your mind and listen carefully. That certificate you are going for, that university which you pay for, many of us pay for it so that we can have the qualifications to seek some sort of rizq and be what? Employed. The idea of taqa'ud, pension, retirement, is a modern construct. When was taqa'ud and employment introduced? In the 1900s. Literally in the 20th century, early 20th century, very recent. How did the people live then? With hiraf. They had their own crafts in their hand. Why did the Sahaba become farmers? How many of our fathers and our mothers we know of our grandparents that had their own farms? They would even go to the sea for provision. They will come with some samak and they will eat that with some ugali, alhamdulillah, or some rice, and they're happy. How many of them had those handicrafts, ways of earning? But the problem with us, with the rise of technology and social media, we literally put our positions in others, in their feet, and we are sold a fake reality. That's why the idea of fakeism is widespread today. You see someone with a Land Cruiser, someone with an expensive house, they're having the most luxurious holiday, and we want to literally aim for that. Has the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ever lived for the sake of this dunya? Have we ever lived for that purpose? How shallow are we? Simply, I'm going to ask you that. Let's not forget a fact. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. The mashayikh, which I feel sorry about them, not because they don't have lives, they do have lives. But the reason why today we undermine them, and I'm going to be very harsh on each one of us, is because they don't have the wealth that many have. And because they don't have this wealth, and when we say wealth, we say that the numbers you have on social media today is money. That's the truth. Because some people in business, they're given this option. A person who has 1 million followers and a person who is a billionaire, whom would you take in order to grow your business? Let's be honest. For those who understand social media, who would you take? The 1 million followers, or would you take the billionaire? Million followers, number 1. Billionaire, number 2. Raise your hand up. Which one? La. The 1 million followers. Yes. That's where the money is, Habibi. Being famous today is where everyone wants to be. That's why people don't care about what they post. As long as they get the numbers, that's the fuel. Every billionaire today is yearning for an influencer out there. So if a sheikh becomes an influencer, everyone runs for them. And when an alim sits in their home and they hide, no one wants to know about them. When an alim comes to preach to you and will give you the ilm, or a proper talib al-ilm, nobody wants to learn about them. It's because we don't just look at their followers. They have little numbers. And I'm going to tell you this with evidence. A friend of mine told me that a friend of his, he wanted to go seek an answer, Shar'i answer. The scholars can hear. And wallahi, they'll feel sad. They want a Shar'i answer on fiqh alone. Do you know what they said? Let's look who's coming today in the masjid, who has at least 500,000 followers, and then he can answer our question. When they found a qari, which I don't want to mention his name, and this man is merely a qari, doesn't even have at least 2 qira'at. That's even far. Doesn't even have any ijaza in Quran. This man doesn't even know how to read Quran properly. He can only read Quran with a lovely naghma, alone. But he would mix up tajweed left, right, and center as he moves along. Is that very clear? These young men, they said, we will go to this man. He has about 500,000 followers. He will give us our answer. Their friends scolded them. Like, what happened to you guys? What happened to you guys? What's going on? Why is the ummah like this? How could he answer your question? He's a miskin that doesn't even know anything. لذلك, that's the situation of the ummah today. The mashayikh, they seek their own way of seeking rizq, whether by teaching, whether by trying to earn, wherever the rizq comes from, because their understanding of rizq تختلف عن فهمنا في الرزق. Rizq is not about how much you earn and how big of a house you live in. Man asbaha, the one who will wake up, and I literally cannot remember the entire hadith. If a person will wake up while he literally aminan fi sirbi, he lives in his little nest while he has security, mu'afa fi badani. Do you think Rasulullah will mention this abatha? Mu'afa fi badani. His body is literally healthy. And this one, indahu quti yawmi, he has his rizq, his luqma on that day, which means you work, you earn like that. You don't need to depend on a boss, an employee. As you go there tomorrow when he sacks you, you don't have a job. And that's exactly what happens. You know what that does? We know that incapacity, that literally makes you to become incapable of doing what? Becoming creative. That doesn't make you innovative. The scholars were able to become scholars, to write, to leave behind a turath, because they were all dependent on themselves. And anyone that depends on themselves, I promise you, try doing that, you will understand the meaning of tawakkul. Because mentioning the topic of rizq is another wide one, which I don't have time. I've been told I only have 3 minutes left. Think about it. As we undermine the ulama, they understand exactly what rizq means. For many of us need to literally clear our minds. Rizq is not by the paper you earn. Rizq is for Allah brings to you. The child that Allah gave you yesterday was unknown. He is the one that gave it to you. He decides today that child will go away. The rizq that you worked for so hard for you to reach to that state, if you literally put it in your heart, Allah can destroy it and take it away from you and destroy you from within. But only the ones who have a clear understanding, they would understand that as Allah gave it to me, Allah will take it away from me if He wills. And if I understand what I'm supposed to do with this rizq, you'll understand exactly how to live and seek that knowledge. Ikhwat al-kiram, that's exactly what each one of us need. And honestly, I wish I could tell you more and I could explain to you more. لكن المجال هذا لا يتسع لنا أن نشرح كثيرا وَنُطِيلَ الْكَلَامِ. This position does not allow us to speak and carry on and give you and give you and give you. Inshallah ta'ala, next time, and bi-idhnillah al-kareem, we'll try to cover as much as we could when we meet again. But I would like to return my gratitude, first of all, to the mashayikh once again. Honestly, I'm honored. They gave me the confidence to stand here, all of them, as they're here, alhamdulillah. And as I said, I am not in their positions. They are the scholars, they are the mashayikh. I'm literally under their feet up to today. I cannot take the credit fully. They are the ones that nurtured me. They are the ones whom I started with. And Allah literally gave us different paths. But yet we return the fadl back to whom? To them. هكذا الحال. And especially Alhaajar TV, the entire team. Where's Khatib? The man of the show. Khatib. He's there. And then the other umara, each one of them, those who follow him, subhanallah, they've worked so hard. Only if you knew exactly what happened last night, there wouldn't have been any event over here, honestly speaking. But we will leave that, inshallah. But because of their juhud and their hard work, this happened. And Alhaajar Creation for sponsoring this entire event, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, bless the team, and put it in the scales of goodness. And may Allah accept it from each one of us for gathering over here, and make this one of those prosperous talks and lectures, inshallah ta'ala, that each one of us at least leave, not like a Friday sermon. Because when we go to a Friday sermon, what happens is that many of us leave outside and each one of us say, mashallah, the khutbah was beautiful. 5 minutes later, everyone is thinking about the pilau that comes after it. That's exactly how we are. Or the famous story of a young man, literally he sat, listen and listen and listen. And to everyone, a tablighi man was explaining. I'm giving you literally a simple story that each one of you know. The tablighi man asks, who wants to go to Jannah? Each one of us, each one's hands up. Another one says, he asks another question, who wants to go to the hellfire? None of them raise their hands. But the young boy doesn't. The young boy waits, and then he waits, and then he waits. Everyone has left. And the man comes to him and asks him, young man, why did you wait? What happened? He tells the man, you're praying on my prayer mat, I was waiting for it. That's exactly what happened. He wasn't waiting for that. He wasn't waiting there for that. He was actually waiting for his mat. And he left with nothing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما. I was told that my first Quran teacher, I'm told she's here. She's actually my grandmother, my father's mother. I learned my first letters of Quran from her. And I learned even reciting Quran from her. And I memorized half a juz from her before I came to Majlis al-Ma'arif. So subhanAllah, I never knew she was here. If she was here, perhaps I wouldn't even have came up here. Because if I say anything wrong, when I go back home today, it's not going to be my day. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.